Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Marian White, and with me is my co-host and cohort since the early 1990s, when we were both trustees on the Larchmont Village Board, and you went on to the glory of being the mayor on the Larchmont Village Board for 4 years, and I just hung out as a trustee for a while.
No, and then you became the chair of the late lamented, now defunct and gone to heaven, Republican Party of the Village of Larchmont.
Well,
and
not likely to come back in the next 100 years.
Well, anyway, so you didn't just sit off to the side. You were an active voice.
Well, we tried.
We did.
Well, we have such a cool show because this is our last summer show.
Yes.
And we have one of our favorite topics in the world, which is furniture share house.
Yes.
Of which your dear wife, Kate Bialo, was the originator. She had the idea and did the research and everything, and then she created Furniture Share House, and you're on the board, and you keep them out of trouble, I assume.
I don't know.
I say
trouble tends to show up, and you never know when it's going to knock on your door.
Well, I guess that's true. But before you get to your news, in January there was a Beds for, around Mother's Day, there was an annual Peel Beds for Kids campaign. Yes. And I just love it when, so with the acknowledgement, Kate sent out a letter that came from one of the people that...
thank you note.
Yes, a thank you note. And so I'm sorry, but I do want to read it. I just wanted to take a moment to extend my deepest gratitude and appreciation for the time and efforts you all put into helping me select some amazing pieces of furniture for my new home. My daughter, who is turning 4 soon, was so surprised when she came home to a new couch, table, chairs, and other unique pieces that have helped me make our house become a real home. We have had some major struggles in the past, and being a single parent, I know the struggles are not going to get much easier going forward, but it's agencies like yours that help make the journey a little easier and the time we shared together a lot more enjoyable. All in all, I have to say that my experience at Furniture Share House was truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I would recommend your services to anyone I know that is in need. May God continue to bless you all for your selfless and life-enriching work. Isn't that wonderful?
Yep.
Well, bless you.
Not me.
Well, yes, you're part of this.
But
and wonderful volunteers.
That goes to the moving force and the volunteers who are there on Wednesdays and Thursdays of every week, except for 2 weeks in August. And they're the group that provide the actual service and the style of service that helps people be willing to accept things.
Well, that's true. That's an interesting point. You have to make them feel that it's a positive thing, and it's not just a handout.
It was. Remember my speech at that dinner for Kate? It was dignity. That was the capital D. That was the first point that came to mind for her when she put the whole idea together. But the volunteers, there are 40 or 50 volunteers do the work.
Wow.
So.
Well, it's grown into quite a powerhouse.
Well, I guess so.
And now you can tell what happened.
So this is an interesting story. For those of you who are Mets fans, you may not like this very much.
But please listen.
Certainly if you are Boston fans, you will not like this, and I hope there aren't too many who are within earshot or eyeshot of the TV that is broadcast locally here in the town of Mamaroneck and village of Larchmont and the village of Mamaroneck. But this is a story about the Yankees, the New York Yankees. So Boston people, turn your TV off, go away, go watch cartoons. The Yankees for the last 10 years, this was the 10th year, have had a week in their June schedule which they call Hope Week. And it's part of the Yankees system for giving back to the community. They do a lot of things. They coach a lot of kids. They make materials and coaching materials and playing fields and all kinds of stuff available to kids who live locally. But this is different. During Hope Week, and Hope stands for Helping Others Persevere and Excel, H-O-P-E.
Oh, isn't that nice?
They have had a Hope Week each June, and this is put together by a fellow named Jason Zillow, who works for in the general manager's office, but I think he's kind of high up in the general manager's office. I think my appreciation of it is he came up with the idea, and for 5 days during the month of June, 5 days in a row, home games, the Yankees have a program that honors some charitable organization for the work they do. And there's five nights. I didn't know what the details were until this year because I came home from work one night in, maybe it was mid-May, early May, and Kate said to me, "You'll never guess who called today." So,
I bet you didn't.
No, I didn't. You know, we have 5 kids, and somebody's cat was sick, or something like the dog was sick. So I figured, oh no, what am I going to hear about? And she said, "You'll never guess." I said, "You're right, I won't guess." She said, "It wasn't one of the kids." I said, "Okay." She said, "It was the Yankees." So I just kind of, I was pouring myself a drink. I said, "Oh, really? Oh, that's great." And she said, No, I mean the New York Yankees." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Yes, really." I said, "Well, did they need some furniture?" She said, "No, but they called to ask whether we would be willing to be honored during their celebration of 10 years of Hope Week as one of the charitable organizations that they would honor this year."
Whoa,
And I said,
that's amazing.
well, it was sort of out of the blue. And it turns out, we heard the story later from the young woman who was really sort of our leader in the whole day, Caitlin Brennan. Caitlin, plug. We found out that she had been actually following Furniture Share House for a couple of years, and she wanted to get Kate in when Girardi was there, but they couldn't get the work done, and then the next year Girardi was out, right? That was
okay.
last year when it was Boone's first year. So she said, she said, "I've been looking at you guys for 2 years."
Wow.
And
what an honor.
well, yeah, it wasn't like there was some application form that you filled out.
No, you have to be found.
Yes, well, yes, that's right.
Wow.
So I wasn't even aware I wasn't aware of how special it was or what Hope Week was. Who knows whether I've ever even seen games over the last 10 years that were home games that were part of the Hope Week ceremony, of the Hope Week charitable giving. But anyway, I said, "Would you do this?" So I said, "Well, I don't know. This would be really quite spectacular." And she said, "Well, look, I'm going to find out what the details are, and then I'll take them back to the board, and we'll discuss it at an upcoming board meeting if we want to do this." Typically, if you're selected, and she's been selected for lots of awards over the year, right?
The L'Oreal, I remember.
The L'Oreal thing, and something in Washington, something in Texas. I mean, it was
And poems? Remember?
poems that was in Texas.
Okay.
And the thing in Washington was for environmental contribution to environmental cleanup, because the used furniture comes, to the extent it does, comes to the share house and then is given away. It's recycled,
Right.
as opposed to being thrown
Right.
thrown away and contributing to the solid waste stream. Anyway, she has all kinds of awards. George Latimer had her as a woman of distinction in the New York State Senate. We drove up there. She's had all kinds of awards. But this one struck me as, wow, the publicity possibilities here are pretty substantial.
Come on, you're a huge Yankees fan.
Wait a second. And then I said, but more importantly, since 1954, I have been watching these guys and living and breathing and dying with every team and every game, and this is a big deal.
Yes, you're a huge fan.
So, well, I only have a picture of Derek, a picture of Mickey, several pictures of Yogi, a whole thingy of Yogi-isms, a picture of Mickey when he was playing, a picture of Mickey when he was in his declining years, a baseball signed by Mickey. I mean, just a few things around that. A chair from the old Yankee Stadium, just a few things. Anyway, so we talked to the board, and she wouldn't say to them at that stage in the game what exactly it was. She said, we've been selected by an organization which is nationally recognized, headquartered in the Bronx, for as an award recipient, and it will involve a surprise visit to the warehouse during a working day, and then it'll involve a dinner and perhaps even a baseball game. So the board, which was all very curious about it, didn't.
Well, I know. Bronx and dinner.
Yeah, well.
Oh, baseball game and dinner.
Baseball
That's
game. But she made up a story. She said, well,
okay.
there's somebody in Ken's office who gives away tickets to charitable organizations. I mean, it was a whole cover story. I don't know how she kept it straight. But she did invent it, and she sort of drew me into it. Shut up when I talk. Okay. So the board agreed, and then the next process was for her to call back Caitlin and say, okay, we're amenable. What's this actually involve? And so then there came into being a significant email exchange between Kate and Caitlin.
That's so great. It's on paper.
Yeah, it's on paper. And so Caitlin said, look, here's what we do. We send a group of players out, and we'll send them out on a working day, and they'll help some families pick out furniture. We will film the whole thing. The Yes Network will film it, and which is partly owned by the Yankees, or maybe majority owned by the Yankees, and the Yankees will film it, and anybody else, any other press who wants to be there can. But we're not going to tell anybody, because if the word gets out that this is where we're going to be at this moment in time, then you will have all kind of press, and there'll be all kinds of onlookers and
Right.
people who want to meet people and so on. So it has to be a secret. You can't tell anybody. But this is what we'll do. We'll come out there. We'll bring the players out there. We'll have lunch with you. And then the players will go back for batting practice. Then we'll invite you down
They
to
do have a job, don't they?
and they did a pretty good job that night, I might add. Then we'll invite you down to to Yankee Stadium, to the field during batting practice, and you can hang around the cage with the reporters and the players. And then we will take you to dinner. They didn't say where, but I'll tell you about that in a second. We'll take you to dinner, and then we will give you seats in the stands. And that's the way she described it.
Wow.
So, this looked pretty good. Because from a publicity point of view, it's always good to have more press and more publicity, because it helps when you're seeking donations.
Right.
It just does. You're sort of a recognizable entity. Anyway, so that's how the conversation started. But Kate is a persistent person, if nothing else.
Gee.
And it turns out that the Yankees were prepared to provide, I think the original number was 40 tickets for the game for volunteers or family members of volunteers who wanted to come. And she did a little straw poll. She said, anybody want to go to a baseball game? We'll have a group activity. It's June 20th.
Oh,
we'll have a group activity, and we'll all go to a game. How's that? And she's sending out emails to all the volunteers, and then to Dave Vitullo, who drives a truck, and to Sarah Kremens, who runs herself, the office, and all the volunteers. And that's kind of the assortment of people. And she got a pretty good response. So she went back to Caitlin and said, I'm going to need more than 40
She's
seats.
amazing,
I'm going to need
she?
more than 40 seats.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, I have seen videos of prior years' Hope Week celebrations, and do I get to throw out the first pitch? Oh, and also, do you give us any money associated with this?
She doesn't miss a beat, does she?
So she's doing all this in emails, and she said, and also parking is such a pain at Yankee Stadium.
Well, that's true.
It is true. So then Caitlin comes back and says, well, all right, I don't know, maybe we can get you 75 seats, maybe. And she didn't respond to the money or the first pitch. Did not respond. And at dinner, she told us, she said, I deliberately didn't respond to that because I wanted there to be some surprise. And she said, and Catherine, my wife, put this in like 4 emails in a row. Same question.
And she still didn't respond.
Very carefully responded to all the other questions, but didn't respond to those 2 things. Anyway, by the time this thing is actually organized, and Catherine has been asking and asking and asking, here's what happened. They gave us, for the volunteers, and we almost filled these seats, 135 tickets. 135 tickets.
Oh, wow.
Isn't
Caitlin wonderful?
She is actually wonderful. Just next to the foul pole in right field.
Whoa.
Not bad. Pretty low down,
Yeah.
not the nosebleed section in the third deck, right downstairs in front of the food ring so that you're walking down from the food ring. And they gave us 10 parking spaces, 1 for each member of the board.
Okay.
And they gave us dinner, which I will describe, for each member of the board. And the board was invited to be on the playing field before the national anthem. And that was the way it lined up. The key to all of this was finding people who were going to be clients that day, who were willing to be photographed and televised,
Right.
without knowing that it was going to be the New York Yankees. And she found that several
So she had to figure out people that would go along with that.
And she found 2 families, and she offered she said there's going to be a surprise, but it's going to involve television and all this other stuff, and then a baseball game, then dinner and a baseball game. And so she found 2 families. So the day arrives, and the guys are a little late. They're supposed to be there, I think, at 10:30.
Well, this is just a normal work day for all the volunteers.
It's a
that are
normal work
coming.
day for the
Right.
volunteers,
They don't
except
know.
that the volunteer corps was invited to bring family members, and we did that, and others did that as well. One
Okay.
kid got his shirt signed on the back. It was really great. And we get there, and they're late, and they're late, and they're late, and they're late. And finally, at about 11 o'clock, a whole bunch of cars pull. I don't know, they weren't in a bus. A whole bunch of cars pulled up. Maybe they do that to sort of diffuse to keep it from being a Yankee transport, which is easily identified. Pull up right at the warehouse, and the guys start coming in. First reaction from me was, they're even bigger than they look like on television. These are huge human beings.
Wow.
And one guy, the bullpen coach, Mike Sharkey, was the coach who accompanied the players. And he's like 3 people wide and 2 people deep. just a gigantic human. Anyway, he comes in first, and then the players walk in, and it's applause, and they're walking in, and then they're welcome. Kate gives them welcome and says, we hope that you'll help us, and they're bouncing around with the families, picking out furniture. Families have little kids, and the kids are, like this, and they're bouncing around, and everybody's having a great time. And then the Yankees ordered pizza, which they couldn't have delivered, because if it came by way of delivery, then the word would get out that they were there. So somebody on the staff went and picked this thing. It was a lot of staff, a lot of staff, including a bunch of security guys, who I had the most fun talking to, because they kind of, and who do you drive for, And the guy I was talking to, named Bobby, and I don't know his last name, said, I drive for Aaron Judge all the time. And he said,
What?
he's even a nicer person than you see on television. I said, that can't be. He said, I'm telling you, I drive this guy all the time. He said, Bobby was a regular guy, so it's sort of large, but he's a regular guy. Anyway, they bring the pizza in, Volunteers sit down and have pizza. The families sit down and have pizza, and the volunteers sit down and have pizza at these two tables. They're yakking it up, blah, blah, blah. And we're taking photographs. And then this fellow, Jason Zillow, has a little thing where the players sit on the, he and I move the couches over. They sit on the couches, and he makes a little speech. And then he says, and blah, 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 blah. This is in recognition of the wonderful work you do, da-da-da-da. That's why we're here, yada. And then he says, and tonight you will throw out the first pitch. And we will invite the board down to be on the field, but they won't, you're the only one who's going to throw out the first pitch. And by the way, and then they bring out a big check, which has got a lot of money on it, and the players are carrying the check out. And he was great. During the course of this, unbeknownst to me, Kate was in the parking lot. It was a very damp day. She was, and it did rain.
Right.
It did rain that evening.
I remember.
And she's in the parking lot, and I'm talking out of school here, right? Her hair frizzes up in the rain. And she's standing next to a blonde woman whose hair is not standing up in the rain. Very nicely dressed, and she leans over and she says, "How do you do that?" And the woman says something called Final Net. She says, Final Net. I don't know, is that a hairspray or something?
I don't know.
Anyway.
But I want to certainly try it.
So they get into yakking, and then the players arrive, and this is a little earlier in the proceeding, and then this woman comes inside, and Kate sees her inside and says, you know, and our grandson was there with his dad and mom, two doctors who kind of left their clinic duties to somebody else that day and came up here.
How wonderful.
Yeah,
I mean,
drove all the way up
something
here.
to remember your whole life.
And so she gets to talking, and finally she says, well, I'm Kate, who are you? And she says, Jenny Steinbrenner, who was one of the owners of the Yankees. She was just hanging around. She wasn't pushing forward.
Nice?
They were so classy. Anyway, they have pizza. Then we had to clean up after they left, and then we were supposed to be at batting practice. Well, it started raining by the time we got to Yankee Stadium, so they were downstairs having batting practice instead of having it outside. We were ushered in. Kate said, I need a little practice for the first pitch. I said, that's cool, let's do that. So I gave her a tennis ball, and I took her out in the backyard, and I paced off like 55 feet, 18 paces or something. And I said, okay, throw it to me. Remember, she had shoulder replacement, and she had a broken foot. This is the quality of player we have, right? She rears back. She throws me a strike with the tennis ball. The dog is running around thinking the tennis ball's for her. She throws me a strike, and I said to her, "Okay, that's enough. We don't need any more practice." Run upstairs, take a shower, get in the car, sit in traffic. It's called the batting practice is called off, so we are ushered in, and then we are taken to the press room where we fool around with the families. With the families,
nice?
they were taken down by bus, which volunteers left the share house, and I don't know, 100 of them, buses and stuff, and that's how they got to the game.
How wonderful! They weren't in traffic
There,
too.
whatever it was, and I think there were 120 seats out of the 135 that were occupied. The Yankees gave everybody a $20 certificate for like beer and a hot dog kind of thing, except for the board and the families who went to dinner downstairs in the place where the really, really fancy people have dinner. And it was a really, really fancy dinner.
Oh,
and
nice.
Then we walked out onto the field. We were led out there by Caitlin. We went out to the field. We were on the field. We posed for a picture. Austin Romine, who was great, I can't remember, I'll tell you who the Yankees were in a second, but Austin Romine was one of the players, and he was really terrific, and he and my grandson got along, and parents and all that. He came out and presented Kate with an award and a check. And I said to him, come on, get in the picture. And he came over, and he literally got behind the center of the line. I was sort of behind the center of the line, put his arm around people, and stood for the publicity photos.
Oh, wasn't that nice?
Then they played the Star Spangled Banner.
Right.
And then Kate threw out the first pitch. Austin, can you play the first pitch video, please?
CKK?
There she is. There she is. Strike.
That's KK!
That is Gary Sanchez, who patted her on the arm. and said, "Nice pitch." And afterwards she said to me, "I like throwing at Gary, he's my catcher." Anyway,
Wow.
and then, of course, the Yankees won the game. In the
What do you
meantime,
mean, of course? That's awesome. It's
beat
because
Houston,
of-
which was a very good team.
Oh, wonderful.
And in the meantime, we were waiting downstairs before we were, after the first pitch, we were ushered off the field. Caitlin dragged us in and put us in the hallway next to the locker room and next to these photos of Yankee greats, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, all this stuff. And then we went into the press room and took pictures. The families took pictures, and Kate was part of that, and then Kate's family took a picture, and the other board members and all this stuff.
Oh, my.
And then they led us out to the seats, and that's where we sat. And during the game, at the end of the, I think it was the third inning, they played the video of the Yankees visiting the Share House with all this overlay on all of the TV monitors around the stadium, as well as the giant jumbo thingy in center field, which you may have seen behind Kate, sort of filming her throw the first
Yes.
pitch. And at the end of the day, it was a spectacular. The kids, the families were there for the game, and their kids were there, and our kids were there, and it was an amazing, ridiculous experience.
Well, I read this because Kate sent this to me, and I think the Monday of the week, all previous winners all are invited to go to the game.
Yes.
So you're going to be there again.
Well,
Maybe not the center of attention in the same way, but
she was the center of attention. But
Yes.
but the board runs the organization, and she's the moving force.
right.
But they were kind enough to include the other board members in the way they recognized
Well, and they
the
all,
organization.
you know, it's those galas and things. There's a lot of
Yeah,
work that
it's-
goes into it.
yes.
And, you know, certainly,
Yes.
thank God Kate doesn't do it by herself.
Well, but it's just it was great for the families. The kids really had a great. The little kids had a great time. The families were just overjoyed. I mean, this is sort of, and so were the volunteers. This is sort of amazing, completely crazy.
Well,
So
and
that's
then
the story.
they got that. Okay.
So that's the story of the first
What a
pitch.
great way to
Yeah.
end our summer stand.
Well, it was pretty good.
Yes. Well,
And she
it's so
gave
well
the
deserved.
Yankees a swag bag, which included this booklet that has more thank you letters like that. That's what that is. It's a
Isn't
reprint.
that wonderful?
Yeah. So
Well, you guys are wonderful, and it's
Well,
all well deserved. A
she-
lot of, you
Yeah.
know, so many hours.
anyway,
So-
and those are the T-shirts they gave us. That's hers. That's actually hers.
Well, have a good rest of
You
the
too.
summer.
Have a great summer. Everybody out there, have a great summer. Right?
And thank you to the talent on the other side, the real talents on the other side of the camera. And
We'll
see
be
you
back in
Sep-
September.
Yes, see you in September.
Happy rest of summer. Happy Labor Day.
Thank you.